Kenny Morrison of the Venice Cookie Company joins us and gives us some background on not only what's happening at the Venice Cookie Company right now, but how it came to be. Also covers what's happening in California. So a great conversation with Kenny. Enjoy. So we've got Kenny Morrison from the Venice Cookie Company. Kenny, thank you for giving us a few minutes.
You got it. My pleasure. How you doing, Seth?
I'm doing well. I'm going to jump right off the bat. Let us know what's happening on the ground as we speak. I think it was yesterday that AB 266 at least went through. Not necessarily with any verbiage, but it went through. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I guess there's a whole bunch of thoughts on that. My thoughts on the moment are it's a historic moment. Are you supposed to say an historic moment? Is there a reason they put an N after the A when you use the word historic? Because H is not a vowel.
Yeah, I think when it starts with an H, it is your discretion. So
really?
I appreciate an historic, sure.
Okay, it's an historic moment. Yeah, I mean, it's looking like the will is finally there for us damn near 20 years after passing Prop 215 and getting the party started with medical marijuana. We finally have a little bit of momentum to create some statewide regulations in California.
So we're going to get into that too, but let's go kind of all the way back to at least starting the Venice Cookie Company. How did that come to be?
In 2006, a buddy of mine and I took a whole bunch of stems of cannabis out of a grow room. We filled up a giant stock pot with like 1 or 2 gallons of olive oil and then an equal amount of water. And we boiled that olive oil for hours and hours, or simmered it until all the water evaporated. And by the end of that process, a handful of hours had gone by. It was late in the evening, and a group of friends were making dinner in a kitchen. And by the time all the water evaporated, we had a super potent vat of cannabis-infused olive oil. And we broke out some pretty bottles and stuck in sprigs of rosemary and garlic and bottled them up. And we had this really pretty bottle of olive oil. And we thought, wow, that would look great in my dispensary. So that was kind of the early genesis of how the Venice Cookie Company started. But as I was involved with a couple dispensaries in the Venice and West LA area, it just occurred to me that I'd rather be on the supply side of things than on the retail storefront side of things.
How come? Why did you know that inherently before you got to going? What was it about supply that got you?
It takes 15 or 20 employees to make our 2 stores run, right? Mm-hmm. And I realized, wow, if I had 15 or 20 employees in a kitchen and in a little office, I could make products that would be in hundreds of collectives. So it just seemed like kind of a natural way to, it just seemed like a natural direction for me to go in. I also really wanted to own some IP. We would notice if a strain of cannabis didn't sell really well. Like, for instance, when we carried Chocolope, it didn't catch on with the public for whatever reason. So we changed the name to Chocolate Kush, and voila, it flew out the door. And I just kind of got me, like, disenchanted. I was like, God, in the cannabis game, you can call anything, and no one can stop you from, really calling something Kush or calling something, whatever you wanted. So I knew if I had some IP, if I had some trademarks for some brand names, that, that would be something I could truly own. And me, myself, I'm just kind of into branding and communications. I think that's where my strength lies, telling a story, shedding something in a creative and positive light. So that was where I wanted to head.
Got it. Okay, so then let's talk about you then, as far as your branding and communications mindset. Was that put? Did you find that through schooling? Is that what what you were doing before you got into this whole thing?
I was an English major. at UCLA, and I came from a background of being a photographer. And when I was at UCLA, when I was 21, I was directing a music video for Incubus. I directed their first video, got them on MTV's 120 Minutes for their first little EP that came out on Epic Records. And so my background was kind of being an actor when I was a kid, and a filmmaker, and wrote and directed a short film that won some awards. And my background's more creative than it is business, that's for sure.
Got it. As far as your film, would we know that one?
What film? The short film that I made?
That won awards, indeed.
Oh, it was called Bobby Star. No, you wouldn't have heard of it, but it was at the Method Fest Film Festival, and it was basically I won an award. Naomi Watts. It was just when she came on the scene, and she was in a short film that won her Best Actress, and I wrote and directed and starred in a short film that I made, and I won Best Actor, so that was cool company to be in.
It's still cool company to be in.
Yeah, that was like 2001 or something.
Okay, and so might we know that film that you acted in, Kenny Morrison?
That was called Bobby Star, but no.
Same film.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, when I was a kid, the way I actually got into the cannabis industry was selling cannabis was my waiting tables job.
Okay.
I started acting when I was 9, and I'm not saying I was selling cannabis when I was 9, but when I was a kid, I mean, okay, fine, I'm a child actor turned drug dealer, damn it. You got it out of me, Seth. When I was, what a cliche, Jesus.
Right?
When I was,
so cliche.
Yeah. When I was 14, I did a movie called The Neverending Story. I played Atreyu. I was the Indian boy in The Neverending Story, Part 2. So I was in the sequel, and I was, that like fantasy movie that is kind of a cult, has kind of a cult following.
I know that, but everybody knows that movie.
Yeah. I was the Indian boy who rode the horse and all of that. We shot it in Germany, Bavaria Studios, when I was 14, and I almost turned down the part because they told me I wasn't going to be able to surf all summer and I had to live in Germany. And I ended up surfing a river in Munich, and it got put in Surfer magazine and all that, so that was fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. So you say in Part 2, or the 84 one, or the second one?
Yeah, it was the second one in 89. So the kids who did the first one were now 21 years old, and so they had to hire an all-new cast. And so I was Atreyu, the Indian boy, in the Neverending Story Part 2.
Is that do you have that heritage?
I'm Spanish and Irish. I don't have any Native American blood, but because I was surfing all the time and had long hair when I was 14, I was super tan, and I played Native American roles at least 3 or 4 times when I was younger. And I had long hair, and they dyed it black for the movie. And so, after about 2 months in Germany, they started sending me to the tanning salon, and I was getting the fake bake and all of that.
That's pretty crazy. When did you kind of start to get behind the camera as opposed to stay in front of it? In other words, when did you realize that you could direct and you wanted to direct?
I was on the set of a movie in Arizona when I was 11. It was called The Quick and the Dead. It's not the Sam Raimi version of The Quick and the Dead. This Quick and the Dead was based off a Louis L'Amour book. It was a Western. And Kate Capshaw played my mom, and Tom Conti played my dad. and Sam Elliott was in it. He was awesome. I learned a lot from him. But I was 11 years old, and I bought my first camera, and my studio teacher on that movie started critiquing my photography and hooked me up with the camera department. And the dudes in the camera department started giving me the film tales, right? So 24 frames a second in a film camera, that's basically a roll of 24 exposures that goes through a film camera every second. And if the scene they're shooting requires more than, 40 seconds, they have to reload the mag. So there was times where I would have all the film I wanted to shoot on movie sets. And they thought, yeah, why not give it to this cute little 11-year-old kid who wants to take photos on set? So I started getting into photography at age 11, 12. And I started directing things, or actually getting paid as a photographer. I think by the time I was 17 or 18, I started shooting things here and there. And I was shooting for various magazines and, directing different little jobs and shooting online content for Teen Vogue magazine and Pac Sun, and getting put on set with, rock bands to shoot EPKs, electronic press kits, that went along with their music videos. And it was in that process, it was during that time that I actually met one of my best friends and my business partner, Marco Hoffman. He was a DP at the time. So as I started getting some proper budgets, I would hire him to be my director of photography, and I would, just kind of direct and field produce. And him and I started, forging a working relationship, kind of on set and in entertainment and whatnot.
So you guys were doing okay. I mean, you had the short film, and you're directing these music videos for Incubus, or at least one of them. When did what's the inflection point between doing that with Marco and, kind of stumbling into the dispensary or dispensaries?
It was a while. I mean, I directed 2 music videos for Incubus, and simultaneously was auditioning for stuff. And I shot a couple movies when I was 28, 29. I was always still auditioning until I was 30. And I was like, you know what, when I hit 30, if I still need to audition to get movie parts, I'm going to give it up, because 30 is just too damn old to be auditioning,
Right.
So at that time, I transitioned from being an actor into just more of an entrepreneur. Started trying to act like a businessman.
Yeah, right. The part fit you. How did you come upon the dispensary? Did you guys start that from scratch, or what's the story there?
The story there was the first dispensary. I had friends who were world-class, cannabis farmers who lived in Amsterdam for years and had won cannabis cups. And back then, when there was when there was only 5 or 6 dispensaries in all of LA County, I stumbled into a place called The Pharmacy in West Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And I walked in and ended up befriending the owner of the place, this guy named Michael Omaha, who kind of has a wacky reputation. And I had no idea who the heck he was, and I just went in and kind of introduced myself. And him and I totally hit it off, because he was a surfer, I was a surfer. If you had to boil down, who I am into one word, if I had to choose one word to be on my tombstone, it would not be businessman. It would not be, cannabis activist. It would be surfer. And, surfer or lover, right? Because I just got married. Yeah. Got married about 6 weeks ago.
And congratulations again on that.
Yeah, thanks, man. So anyways, him and I really hit it off. Michael and I really hit it off, just kind of on a friendship level. I was in my early 30s. He was in his late 60s. And it was kind of an interesting, dynamic, wacky slightly father and son relationship, but I hate to, I wouldn't go that far. But him and I ended up going to Burning Man together for the first time. And within having met him of like, I think a month or so, I was like, hey man, has anyone ever offered to do a documentary on what you're doing here at the pharmacy? And he said, yes, I've had offers. And I guess John Sayles, Academy Award winning director John Sayles, offered to make a documentary on him, and he turned him down. And I said, well, you should let me do it. And so he said, okay. And I think it was primarily because of the bond we had as surfers. And so I started shadowing Michael and his business partner, Joanna, with a video camera. And kind of, started shooting footage and capturing footage to follow, the phenomenon that has become, the cannabis storefront dispensary. Mm-hmm. And within a short amount of time, he was asking my opinion on, if I was to open a dispensary, how would I do it? And I said, I was dating an acupuncturist at the time. And I said, if I was going to open a cannabis dispensary, I'd make cannabis be one of hundreds of medicinal herbs that the store carried, and I'd have it presided over by licensed acupuncturists. And I'd present it in the context of the Chinese pharmacopoeia and put it back in its rightful place, as a plant-based medicine in the Chinese pharmacopoeia. And he loved the idea, I'm sure he had some similar ideas of his own. And so we started working on it. We opened a second store in Westwood Village, which is, I was born at UCLA Hospital and I have a real estate license. So I secured the location for the expansion store into Westwood Village. It was an old store called Videotech that I used to go into when I was a little kid and rent videos with my mom. And so that became the Pharmacy Westwood. And then him and I had both simultaneously yet independently located the same store in Venice on Abbot Kinney for the Pharmacy Venice. And so that became kind of the flagship location that we turned into the bigger store.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is he still around, or is he still active?
Michael's in jail, man.
He is.
He's actually in jail for getting caught manufacturing edibles.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did he do wrong?
He made edibles in a commercial kitchen.
But you make edibles in a commercial kitchen. What are you doing that's different than what he did?
I'm a bigger liar than he is. I mean, that's honest. That's the honest truth. I'm a bigger liar than him because he had a surprise visit from the health inspector, and the health inspector said, "Hey, I'm here to do an inspection on your kitchen. What is it that you guys make here?" And he was very outward and upfront and honest, and he said, "We make cannabis activated foods here." And the health inspector said, "Okay, you put that in the eggs and the milk?" And he said, "Yes, we do." And he said, the health inspector said, "Okay, well, I'm going to red tag the building and I'm going to call the state police." And that's exactly what they did. And, that started a long, very sad, sordid process of him dealing with, the repercussions for being involved in the cannabis industry in the early 2000s.
When do we have a date certain on when he might be able to get out, or?
He's looking at like 4 years.
From now or from when he went in?
And he's looking in 4 years in state jail, and he really only entered I think 6 to 8 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's got some time.
He's got some time. It's really sad. I mean, gosh, I don't want to blow up his spot, but there was he had more things going on than just that.
Okay.
But we'll leave it at that. And that to me has always been a very, very constant, clear and present reminder of exactly what it is that I'm dealing with by being a pioneer in the edibles space, is that I am a professional food adulterator, right? And that's why I'm so excited that, regulations are coming to California, because for the first time ever, we're seeing language in legislation pop up that says, these food products will be regulated in the same way as, commercially manufactured foods, except they will not be designated as adulterated. So it's been a long time coming. I'm excited about this. I have a great relationship with my health inspector, but she has no idea about the magic ingredient in all the products I produce. And not only am I looking forward to the day that I don't have to withhold that information, I'm really looking forward to the days that are coming up here where I can not only be honest with health inspectors and people from the Department of Health, but actually advise them. That was one of the things that was awesome about the Vancouver event that you threw, Seth, is that I was talking with Stephen Gilbert from the Nevada Department of Health. And I said, hey man, I've been at this since 2008. It would be, my pleasure to help you out in any way that I can, So.
Yeah. And we appreciate you being there. As far as these regulations that are coming to California, you're not just a guy. You're on the board of the CCIA. So can you give us a little bit of insight about what's happening at those meetings and what is happening to push through AB 266 and where we are and where we're going? Give us a little bit more depth.
We're sitting on our hands. We're sitting on our hands waiting to see what the governor's office is going to come up with. All the language was replaced just, I think, last Thursday with one sentence. It's the intent of the California legislature to regulate medical marijuana.
Why did we do that, I guess, is a question.
I think the idea, and I'm no expert, I'm just kind of getting my feet wet in this political realm, but I think the idea was, there's different theories. Maybe this is a sign that Governor Jerry Brown wants to make cannabis regulation a legacy issue for himself and his potential successor, which is looking like it could possibly very well be Gavin Newsom.
Yep.
It could be just that, time is short and he wasn't satisfied with any of the language that he saw, so he just wanted to slash it all out of the bill and write something that's less prescriptive, that more just kind of talks about the general intent and the general framework, and leave it to the rule makers to flesh out in the coming months, which I don't think is necessarily a bad idea. It's one or both of those possibilities, or maybe a third one that I'm not thinking of in the moment.
Understood. I mean, what does your gut tell you? It does sound like you think you don't know.
My gut tells me that, cannabis is getting exponentially demystified with every month that goes by in California and the nation and Colorado. I think people's, attitudes towards cannabis is changing rapidly. The one thing that seems to be the biggest hot button issue is edibles, right? That seems to be what's kind of the most hotly debated issue of the whole, within the whole industry. That and probably carbon-based extractions. And I think it's for good reason. Edibles are damn near psychedelic when they're really strong. And, we have probably some far-reaching ideas and notions and perceptions of what psychedelics are and if they're good or they're bad. And people blowing themselves up with carbon-based solvents is a big problem in the cannabis industry. You know, I heard Andrew D'Angelo say it pretty well. He said, as long as people are blowing themselves up by extracting cannabis with butane, we're going to have a problem.
That's
That's
very well said.
And it's,
the D'Angelos have a way of saying things plainly and purely.
Yeah, and that's the truth, you know. Something that needs to be demystified, though, is that every food oil that you've eaten in the last week has been extracted with a carbon-based solvent.
Well, that's another thing that came up in Vancouver, which is, I think, what needs to be explained. This is certainly not the only industry that is using it. It is essentially every industry that is using this. So in extractions. So I think that's something good for that conversation. What about the edibles conversation and kind of making sure that we give folks the experience that they're signing up for? You know, labeling and packaging and start low, go slow. What are your thoughts on that as an edible guy?
Well, what I'm doing with CCIA is Juliana Corella from Anti-Dolores and Christy Noblick from Kiva. The three of us are on the CCIA board, and I've formed an edible subcommittee that I'm chairing. And the three of us are on this subcommittee along with two other people, and we're really looking forward to, you know, putting forth CCIA's official position on edibles, packaging, best manufacturing practices, dosaging, and all of that. So I think, you know, we're trying to position ourselves as the go-to group for people to, you know, to advise some of the rule makers that are going to be tasked with a really difficult, you know, job here shortly, which is making rules for the damn edibles industry. You know, it's a tough one.
Indeed, yeah, no, that's the tough one without question. As far as not the story that you need to tell, but the information that needs to be disseminated, and the means with which it needs to be disseminated. So I know that there's a great group in Colorado, and it's good to hear that there's a great group in California getting started, because Juliana is great. She's fantastic. She's killing it with the pets stuff, isn't she?
She's killing pets nationwide.
Is that what I said? I don't know.
No, but that's funny. I was actually joking with her. I was like, "Wow, you're killing it with that." And you know, she's doing great, and it's nice to see that that's getting traction. You know,
indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. All right, so let's get back to the Venice Cookie Company. When we left the story, you were kind of at the tail end of the pharmacy and getting into the edibles, getting into the infused products. So you have this one bottle of olive oil, and you know, just kind of taking a quick drive around your products. You know, we see the drinks, the tinctures, the sprays, the chocolates, the teas, and everything else. There's one bottle of olive oil, at least on the website. Is that something that stays because it was the first thing? You know, why is there not more of that, or or should there be less? I guess
the sales of the olive oil has really actually been increasing lately, because I think the general public is kind of fatigued with the sugary edible, and I think the savory edible is starting to gain more traction. For a long time, our bottle of olive oil was not nearly anywhere close to being a top seller, and it's doing a lot better these days.
Great.
But in California, we have over 70 SKUs currently of different products we produce. In the state of Washington, we have over 30 SKUs that we currently produce. We just released hard candies in California, which is under the Cannabis Quencher brand. We did what Jolly Ranchers did in reverse. Basically, you know, Jolly Ranchers was a fruit-flavored hard candy that branched into fruit-flavored sodas. Cannabis Quencher is a fruit-flavored beverage that just recently branched into fruit-flavored hard candies. And so that's what I released down here in California, and what I just released up in Washington is Loud Vape, which is our vape cartridge. So we're beyond just cannabis activated foods. We're now doing other infused products like, you know, vape cartridges and and stuff like that.
Indeed, there seems to be a market in vape cartridges, without question.
Yeah.
Tell me about the CBD1 tincture. This is the CBD part of the conversation. Go for it.
CBD is great. I love it. I can tell you a little interesting anecdote, which we never could have seen coming, which is in the adult use rec market in the state of Washington, our top selling chocolate bar in the quote unquote non-medical recreational cannabis market is our CBD chocolate bar. Mm-hmm. It far outsells the chocolate bars that have no CBD in them. And simultaneously, up in Washington, our CBD bar is our worst seller in the medical market. So, I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of theories, but it's an interesting point. And I think the key takeaway from that is cannabis is a wellness product, whether you call it recreational or adult use. The main thing people come in the stores asking about is what's going to help me with my pain, what's going to help me sleep, stuff like that.
And do you? I mean, I think that maybe one step further, maybe not boring us with everything, but do take us a level deeper. What do you think that means? What do you think that says? That type of activity with your SKUs in those regions, with those disciplines, medical, non-medical.
I think what that means is we have a lot of people using the adult use market for medicinal or wellness purposes. Mm-hmm. And, the people who weren't willing to jump through the hoops and get a doctor's letter they were perhaps interested in cannabis for medicinal purposes, but not necessarily interested enough to go out there and get put on a quote unquote list, right? Or go through the hoop of getting a letter from their doctor to use the product. But now that it's readily available and all they have to do is get carded at the door and walk in, absolutely they're interested in trying cannabis for wellness purposes. I was in a store the other day and there was probably a late 50s woman in there with her mom who was probably in her early 80s. And she tried some of our tea bags and she tried our honey. And, I hope she had a positive experience. But the first thing she wanted to know is, will this help me with my pain? And will this help me get a good night's sleep? And, I didn't work at that store, so I was able to, answer some of those questions. But, no one's really allowed to speak about these products in the I-502 market in any sort of medicinal or, therapeutic context. Right. Which I think is sort of a shame, but that's how it is.
Yeah, you're speaking of Washington State, and of course, Colorado is different, and every state is different in terms of what is acceptable, what is an acceptable ailment on the medical side of things, and so that is certainly why in many states there are absolutely patients that are going to the adult use side with ailments. So PTSD, for instance, specifically in Colorado, that's not something that's recognized on the medical side. So you're definitely going to see that patient on the adult use side. So all that makes sense to me. Do you have further thoughts on that from a CCIA perspective, or just a guy that's running a company?
Couldn't someone just say they're depressed because of their PTSD? I mean, is depression on the list in Colorado?
I think we should probably look into that. I'm depressed because of my PTSD, and then there you go. Then we can get a red card. That's not bad.
All right.
This is why you pay you the big bucks.
Exactly. This is just imagine all the lies I tell my health inspector. Jesus.
All right. So, we kind of went through, what brought you to where you are. But, as far as the Venice Cookie Company, the growth there, going from the one bottle of olive oil to the multiple SKUs that you have, the multitude of SKUs that you have. Take us through that story a little bit, and how the company grew, and what you found directly after olive oil, and what that led to, et cetera.
Pretty much every product we made was based on what we heard from patients. I mean, we had Dennis Hopper's nurse come into the pharmacy one day and said, hey, Dennis isn't doing very well. He probably doesn't have much longer to live. Could you guys make him a tea? And so, that sent Marco and I to the lab, if you will, and we figured out a way to provide Dennis Hopper with a cannabis tea. And that became Subtle Tea. That became one of our brands. We started having diabetics ask for something sugar-free. We started having people with gluten intolerance ask us for something gluten-free. And, I'm proud of the fact that most of what we've created has been because we actually do have the ability to be good listeners every once in a while.
I mean, that is just a good business person, is to be a good listener. When you find a new SKU and introduce it and see how it does, how willing are you to leave it on the market? How willing are you to kind of take it right off? How do you do that? How do you SKU manage and make sure that you've got the right inventories and all that? Like these true business questions.
Oh man, I don't even know how to answer that. There's probably some products that we could eliminate. There's already been products that we've eliminated. Glad we've made them. A lot of them might come back into existence as we cross various state lines based on, the patchwork of laws and regulations in each state. Some products we made a long time ago are now starting to kind of gain traction beyond just the olive oil. Products we've discontinued, so we might bring some of them back. As far as how we manage inventory and all that, it's just, managing a big staff and getting people who excel in areas that I would be absolutely awful at, taking on. QuickBooks and dealing with inventory and Excel and the spreadsheets, and that's really truly not my skill set, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Fair enough. We won't see you behind the desk, balancing the books. So to speak.
No, you definitely won't. Marco and I are commonly referred to by our controller as the yin and the yang. We're probably more lucky than we know that not only are we close friends who really know what it means to dedicate yourself to your work. I think that's a big, that's really ingrained in you when it comes to working on a film or a television set, is that you work until the day is done, you work until the job is done, you're on location living out of a suitcase, putting in 12 to 14 to 16-hour days, whatever's necessary. We've definitely carried that work ethic into the cannabis industry. So, that's been helpful. But I think beyond that, our strength is how practically polar opposite we are. And, there's things that he excels at that I'm awful at, and vice versa. And, as this thing grows, we identify places where we both have redundant weaknesses, and we plug someone else in those positions where necessary.
Redundant weaknesses, such an interesting concept. But
that's
what's that?
Can't have that. Right?
Can't have that. Can't have it.
If I'm weak, he better be good.
You can have it once, but not twice.
No, and if we're both weak at something, we got to look outside of ourselves.
That's it. All right, so we've got a pretty good story here, and really appreciate you giving us some time. We've got 3 final questions which we like to ask. I'm going to tell you what those 3 final questions are. so that you know what they are before I actually ask you them. So the first question is, what has most surprised you in cannabis? The second question is, what has most surprised you in life? And then the final question is, on your soundtrack of life, can you please give us at least one track that's on your soundtrack of life? So first question first, what has most surprised you in cannabis?
Oh man, I don't know if I've seen that yet. What has surprised
Meaning
me?
you haven't been surprised?
No, I just think the biggest surprises are probably to come. I guess the thing that is the most gratifying about being involved in the cannabis industry is, having come from a background of entertainment or even the music industry or the film industry. And Marco and I would probably both attest to this, that the business relationships we've forged in the cannabis industry have been far more honorable and honest and, based on trust and handshakes than we've had a lot better outcomes as far as trusting people in the cannabis industry than we have in, mainstream business, So I think that's interesting.
A good one right there.
Yeah.
I do like your concept that the biggest surprises are yet to come. I think that's true, and that's the first time we've heard that, so that's cool. What about what surprised you most in life?
Oh boy, it's the end of the day, and you're asking these very big questions, Seth. What has surprised me most in life? I mean, the first thing
Indeed.
that comes to my mind is that I'm married. I didn't see that one coming. I've been married for 6 weeks now. It still doesn't feel right to use the word wife. And even my mom, I went sailing with my mom and my wife this weekend. We were all on a boat. She was like, gosh, using the word wife, it just sounds too adult for you guys, And this is my mom, who's, almost 70. But yeah, I don't know if I ever expected I would get married. But as we get older, we change. And boy, oh boy, did I find the right woman. She's absolutely amazing.
And then I guess one last time, congratulations once again, right?
Thanks.
Yeah, you did turn to me when we were together in Vancouver, and you said I'm married, or I just got married, as though you didn't believe it. I can attest to that. It was you looked very happy. You looked almost blissful, but also baffled somewhat.
I've got so many big cheese and smiles when I look at all my wedding photos. I never smiled so big in all my life.
There you go. Well, that is fantastic. And then I guess this last question is a good one for you right now and always. But what is that track? If there's one track, on your soundtrack of life, what would that be?
I don't know. I guess me and my woman might say Ben Harper.
There you go. Well, which one? Ground on Down, maybe?
Burn one down. Oh, that's too cliche for cannabis industry.
Oh, no,
people.
I said Ground on Down. Ground on Down.
Oh, I don't know that song.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a good one. It's a bluesy type situation.
Huh.
But I thought you were going to maybe go with some Dick Dale based on the fact that you're a surfer guy,
No surf. No Dick Dale. I don't know. A song that my wife and I both think is beautiful is Another Lonely Day by Ben Harper.
There we go. Perfect. Well, listen, Kenny, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate you taking us through the story. And we're looking forward to keeping in touch here, on all this California stuff and seeing how it all goes. Thanks for the work that you're doing on the CCIA. Thanks for the work that you're doing with the group that you've got going with the edibles and Juliana and team and keep on keeping on. You know what I mean?
You too, Seth. We appreciate you. Your events are awesome, man. We really appreciate you.
And I appreciate that. Thanks so much. All right, Kenny Morrison.
Thanks, man. I'll talk to you soon.
So there you have it, Kenny Morrison. Been doing it for a while and certainly knows what's going on in a number of different markets. Specifically, though, we zeroed in on exactly what's happening in California, because that's a big deal right now. So hope you enjoyed that conversation, and hope you're enjoying your day.